Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. I'm so happy you all are here today with me because today I'm going to be talking about Inktober supplies, all the art materials that I use or have used in the past for Inktober. Hopefully that'll give you some ideas on what you can do with each of these. So last week I talked about how to get through Inktober, how to successfully finish the challenge, and for the past 2 years I've done it successfully. So some things that I learned over the 2 years that I did the challenge, and I share them in my video, so do take a look and hopefully you will find that useful. Alright, so before I talk about all these supplies that I have here, let me tell you that I have collected these over years of doing different art school assignments, different commission work, and none of these I got specifically for Inktober. And the reason I want to mention that is that to do the challenge, just do the Inktober challenge and be a part of it. You don't need any of these endless number of markers. Yes, they are fun to use and you can experiment with them, and it's a lot of fun to do Inktober with all of this so that you can experiment and try different techniques, etc. But don't use that as an excuse to not do the challenge, because I don't have all of these shades of markers, or I don't have a specific kind of sketchbook or tools. All you need is a simple sketchbook and a pen, and that's what I did for my Inktober last year. So just to say that again, please do the challenge if you are planning to participate. Don't not do the challenge because you think you don't have all of these materials. You simply just need a pen and a sketchbook. Okay, so last year what I did was a series of landscapes, and I had this sketchbook lying around from I think my grad school days that I didn't exactly finish using. It's a Rowney sketchbook, and I was okay to use this. The sheets are kind of thin, as you can see the underdrawing from the drawing done on the next page, but since I was just using pens and not doing ink washes of any kind or using watercolor, it worked out fine. But if, like you see, it really does bleed through the page. But this is what I had lying around, and I used a few of my Artist Loft markers, the fine illustration pens. I have them in different point sizes. So, you know, you can do all different kinds of things with them. That was really helpful. So, like when I wanted to do like the really fine lines, I would use the 0.005. And when I really wanted to add some depth, like here, I would use the thickest one that I had. I think it was 0.08. So these pens are really fun to use. There's a lot you can do with them, and I'll show you the different textures that you can do towards the end of the video, so stay tuned. But yeah, about the sketchbook, this is what I had on hand, and because I was just using pens, it was absolutely fine. It in fact worked out really well, not a problem at all. So like I said, any sketchbook you have on hand, just pick it up. Any pens you have, it'll be perfect to use. This year, I don't know if I'm getting too ambitious, and I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do for my Inktober project in my next video. So do come back next week for that. But this year I'm gonna experiment with ink washes and maybe a little more detailed ink drawings. So they're gonna be illustrations, and I'm so nervous. I don't know if I'm really overstretching, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so since I'm going to be doing heavy ink washes and going to be using ink this time, I thought watercolor paper would be the perfect for that, because it can absorb the ink. It's not going to really spoil the paper or tear the paper, or you know, sometimes the paper kind of gets crumbly, you know, when it can't really absorb that much water. So I'm just going to be using a watercolor paper. I like the texture. It's thick. So hopefully this should work fine. So this is the Artist Loft Watercolor Pad. It's 140 lb. It is 24 sheets. We'll see how this goes. All right. So the year before that, I did experiment with this sketchbook. It didn't really work out for me. It is for pen and ink. It's acid-free, smooth texture paper. But for me, I think the problem was that it was still bleeding. The ink was kind of blotting over this. I don't know if it was my ink that was the problem, but I didn't really enjoy using the smooth textured paper. So, but you can give it a try. Maybe it works out well for you. It'll work well for what you want to do. All right, and the other fun thing to use with inks is a toned paper. I think it's super fun to use because it's not plain white and that overwhelming feeling of filling up the paper. I think toned paper kind of really eases it out a little bit. So I think when I did this, this was not last year, this was the year before that, I followed the official prompt list. So that was a lot of fun. And the reason I like using toned paper so much is because I think when you use the white pen, it kind of really stands out. I used the Jelly Roll white pen. It works really well, so you can try it, or any other white pen you may have. I think it really kind of brings out the drawing. And for these finer details, I used these fine point, fine liner pens that I have in all different colors. I think I've accumulated all of these over years of, I don't know, my undergrad, I think. They're fine point and they're really useful when you want to do the little details in your ink drawing. And I think using colored pens adds a lot of, you know, fun elements to your drawings. So if you have any of these pens lying around, it's, I think, the best time to use them. Okay. So if you see all of these little fill-ins that I did, I used my brush pens for it. I'll show you those in a minute. But okay. All right. So the brush pens I was talking about were these Tombow Brush Pens. Again, I think these I had got for assignments I did in my grad school. They're really nice to use. They have brush tips on one side and a fine point on the other. So they are really useful when you want to, you know, shade in a few things. So let's see. So you can play with the thickness and how fine you want the lines to be, or how thick you want them to be. And they come in all different kinds of gray shades and also colored shades if you want to go get them, or if you have them, they're super fun to use. What I used last year was these Artist Loft illustration pens. They come in all different point sizes and they are really nice to use if you want to do like very specific detailed work. So like I was saying, you want to do with a super fine pen, you can get really thin lines and the thick pens. So these you can use to create foreground and background. You want to do light to shadow. These are really useful for all of that. So fun pens to use. And this was the white pen that I was talking about. You can add highlights, you can create some glow areas, or just create contrast in your drawings. They're really fun to use. I also have the water brush from Pentel, and let's see. So you can use that. Thin it out if you need to. Basically use it as a water brush. Experiment. The other thing you can use are, you know, some sort of calligraphy tools or calligraphy brushes and pens. You get all kinds of calligraphy tools. These are the ones that I have. I think I collected these when I had a calligraphy assignment to do in my undergrad, and I still have them. But you can use whatever calligraphy tools you may have, brushes or anything else. The best thing about doing Inktober is really just experimenting with ink, what it can do, different kinds of pens and textures, and it's just so much fun. So all you have to do with these tools is that you dip it in ink and that's it, right? So you can do different kinds of textures, thick to thin. And if you use the tool when it's a little dry, when it's running out of ink, you can create like really interesting textures out of it. So try it out. You get them in all different sizes and different point angles. You can see they're really old, they're almost kind of breaking, but still fun to use. You can also use different kinds of brushes for your ink. Any kind will do. I think watercolor brushes would work the best, but use whatever brushes you have on hand. These sponge brushes, as I call them, they are super useful when you want to do ink washes. Obviously, you can also use a super thick brush, whatever you have on hand, but I think these are really fun because sometimes they create really interesting textures. So definitely give them a try. The one thing I would say is that if you're using ink and you're gonna do ink washes, etc., do use a thick paper, something that can handle that much amount of water. You don't want to do the whole illustration and realize that your paper can't handle it. So yeah, I think these are all the tools that I'm going to use. Yes, pencils. So what I like to do with my drawings is first start with an underdrawing. I think it really takes a lot of the pressure off. Use extremely light lines. You don't want to do super hard, super strong line drawings, because once you do use the ink on it and you want to erase the pencil lines after that, it can be a little difficult, and the ink kind of sometimes may you know, get smudgy, or you know, it's really tough to handle those pieces. So what I use is the PrismaColor Col-Erase pencils. My favorite one is the Tuscan Red, but you can obviously use whatever color you like. But just a quick tip here, if you do like to do super rough drawings and you know, you are used to doing very hard, very strong lines, you can use a light box or even a window, whatever. Obviously you'll have a window in your house, and if it's a sunny day, it's a perfect light box. So you can have a clear one line drawing instead of having multiple rough line drawings if that is something you want to try out. It's a super useful thing to have. So like I said, I'm going to be using inks this time. What I'm going to be using are the Winsor Newton inks. My drawings are mainly going to be monochromatic with a little bit, I'm thinking of the vermilion hint, but I'm not very sure. So definitely the black ink by Winsor Newton. So far it's been working really well with all the trial drawings that I'm doing. Also, some parts of my drawings are going to be, I want to leave them completely white. So just to avoid any accidents, I'm going to be using the masking fluid. I just got this. I'm going to be honest, I've never used this before, so I don't know how it's going to go. I'm going to have to do a little bit of trial and error with that. But essentially what it does is that you use a layer of the masking fluid. So when you use inks over that, it doesn't really affect the paper. And then once you're done, you can peel it off. And that way you can leave portions of your painting completely white, or the color paper, color of the paper that you're using. I guess that's it. Yes, and if you are using inks, I would definitely recommend having a dropper. It makes the whole, you know, removing the ink into your palette part a lot more convenient and less messy. That's it, you guys. This is all that I have for today. I'm really looking forward to Inktober. I'm excited. I am looking forward to see what you guys are going to make. So let me know what you guys have in mind for Inktober this year, and let's have fun inking. Alright guys, so come back here next week. I'm going to talk a little bit about my Inktober project this year and share some insights into what I'm going to do. Alright, thank you guys for being here, and I will see you back next week. Happy inking!